I'm going to talk to you about initiative from a game designer's perspective. I've been designing games for 30 years, and a lot of times I ask myself, does the game really need initiative? If we think about initiative, let's take a step back. Initiative is a hard break between role-playing, where you've got players in a scene interacting with the environment, with NPCs, and then all of a sudden combat breaks out. So what is combat? That is a violent interaction. So we've gone from a non-violent interaction to a violent interaction, and all of a sudden we need to know who goes when and in what order. Now, a lot of RPGs that might have a unified game system where you handle combat the same way you handle non-combat mechanics, you might question, why would we even need initiative? You'd be able to move from combat to non-combat seamlessly. And in those cases, I would agree. Let's create a system without initiative, where you can actually end up just continuing from, hey, we are negotiating with the king's guards. We want the king to, follow our lead in terms of negotiations with the adjacent kingdom. And all of a sudden, we've offended the king, and his king's guards pull out their swords, and they're ready to imprison us, and they are ready to imprison us, and now it's initiative. Now, if the system uses the same mechanics for combat and non-combat, then I would say you don't even need initiative. Just continue the mechanics the way they were. But if you have different mechanics for combat, if you have, let's say, D&D inspired mechanics where you have armor class and hit points and combat feats and combat spells, then yeah, you probably do need an initiative because you're going to need to transition from one set of rules into another set of rules. Now let's talk about the different types of initiative that are out there. When we look at initiative, you have initiative that could be party-based, where one side will determine their initiative order with a die roll, and the other side will determine their initiative with a die roll, and depending on who goes higher, they're going to go before the other one. And this is determined either once at the beginning of the entire combat, or every single round, both sides are going to roll to see who goes first. Now, you can go a little bit more granular. And you can say, you know what, we're going to end up having every single combatant roll to see what their initiative order is and end up deciding in terms of, highest roll goes first all the way to the lowest, and it's by combatant. So you can have total interspersion between PCs and NPCs. Now, how do we handle it in Fate of the Norns Ragnarok? In Fate of the Norns Ragnarok, the one thing that we did not want initiative to do is be something that feels like work. Something that feels like it's slowing down combat. It feels like it's slowing down your narrative and your action. The entire design principle behind Fate of the Norns Ragnarok is to be able to create a system that has a spotlight on the action and the action moving forward without any interruptions. And so our initiative system, the way it works is, there is an initiative tile for every combatant. So you're going to have one initiative tile for every PC, and you're going to have one initiative tile for every NPC or denizen. You might even have one initiative tile for a group of denizens if you have a very large group. You're going to shuffle these together and you're going to lay them out very quickly, one after another, and that speeds up the resolution of initiative versus very granular initiative where everyone is rolling, everyone's adding modifiers, everyone is giving their numbers, and someone's writing the numbers down, and someone then has to sort the numbers. Here, every single tile represents one combatant. You run them out randomly, and then if one side has a jump on the other side, you take the tiles of the surprise side and you bump them down, or you say, you know what, the attackers, the ambushers, get to move up or down in initiative +1, +2, or +3, or -1, -2, -3, depending on the level of surprise. And that allows that kind of realism to permeate the initiative. But our initiative does not end there. Our initiative is a mini game within the game because it is not a static list. It is a living list. So from round to round, your order and initiative could change. Anyone at any time during their turn could play a rune to move up or down initiative by one position. And there are a bunch of powers in the Fate of the Norns Ragnarok system, passive powers mostly, that allow you to move up or down in initiative based on some sort of event that happens in-game. And that allows you to use the initiative to your advantage in almost like a fourth dimensional way on the battlefield. And so this allows you to have a mini game within the game itself of combat. Sometimes you're going to have a very large battle. Sometimes you're going to have dozens of combatants on one side and dozens of combatants on the other side. And sometimes you're going to say, you know what, if we do this party-based, one side goes first and the other side goes first, one side's going to get wiped out. And if we do this too granularly, as in every combatant gets an initiative, that is going to create a massive, massive headache in terms of managing initiative order for everyone at the table. And so another very quick way that we add as optional rules in the Fate of Norns Ragnarok system is that you can run through several combatants on the table and say, all right, these 3 players are going to go. Then I'm going to run a dozen enemies. Then these 3 players are going to go. I'm going to run another dozen enemies. Then these 3 players are going to go. And then I'm going to run the last dozen enemies. And this way, this speeds up the entire process. And people can kind of pre-plan when their turn is going to be, and they're ready to go. And that is very important for a very fast combat. You want people to know when they're coming up in their initiative turn, so they can actually be ready when it's their turn, so things can move very quickly. And that's another one of our design principles in Fate of the Norns Ragnarok, is very quick turns. So if you ever watch any of our games at conventions, a monster's turn literally takes 10 seconds. It's very, very quick. We pass on the damage, what effects go onto the player. The player is going to manage that, and we move on to the next combatant and the next combatant. So combat goes through very, very quickly because we don't have die rolls. We use an action-reaction system using runes, but that's for another topic. Right now we're talking about initiative. There are other ways that people manage initiative in other indie systems, and I encourage you to explore them because with the advent of Kickstarter and a lot of indie RPGs, there are a lot of very creative people that have come up with new and innovative ways to handle initiative.